Critical thinking mastery. Master your thought patterns and break free from negative thinking. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." You are listening to an audiobook on Unlock Your Success Habits, where your wisdom is always respected. Wishing you success and an abundance of positive energy every single day. You wake up tired, even after a full night's sleep. You look in the mirror and feel like something is already wrong, though nothing has happened yet. Throughout the day, a voice follows you, not out loud, but in your thoughts. It says things like, "You are not doing enough," or "You are probably going to mess this up." It questions your choices, rewrites your past, and casts shadows over your future. And even when everything looks fine on the outside, inside, there is tension, unease, self-doubt. That voice is not random, it is a pattern. And the longer it goes unchecked, the more it becomes your truth. But here is the deeper truth. That voice is not you, it is just a habit your brain has practiced too many times. Negative thinking is not just a bad day. It is not just mood. It is a self-reinforcing cycle, a mental loop that becomes behavior, then identity, then destiny. And the most dangerous part, it feels normal. You forget that you can interrupt it, that you can challenge it, that you can master it. This audiobook is not here to make you feel better for a few hours. It is here to help you understand what is happening in your brain and how to take your power back, not by pretending everything is positive, but by learning to think critically, clearly, and consciously. If you stay with me through every chapter, you will learn how to recognize the invisible traps of thought that sabotage your joy, focus, and confidence. You will understand how your brain wires patterns and how those patterns can be reprogrammed. You will learn the exact tools to break free from overthinking, self-doubt, and the victim mindset. You will develop habits that train your mind to ask better questions, shift perspectives, and create peace where chaos used to live. The philosophy behind this audiobook is simple but powerful. You cannot control every event in your life, but you can absolutely control how you think about those events. Your thoughts are not facts, they are interpretations. And the way you interpret life determines the quality of your life. Negative thinking is not destiny, it is a decision. And every time you question it, every time you interrupt it, you build a new path forward. This is not about blind positivity, it is about mental clarity. We are not replacing negative thoughts with fluffy affirmations. We are replacing them with powerful questions. Questions like, is this thought true? Where is the evidence? Is there another perspective? What would I tell someone I love if they were thinking this? These questions are not therapy, they are transformation. They move you from reaction to reflection, from helplessness to action. We will begin by exploring the mechanics of the brain. Why it defaults to negative patterns, why it repeats the same thoughts over and over, and why it feels hard to change. Then we will identify the most common thought traps, overthinking, self-doubt, blame, and see how they play out in your daily life. You will learn how these patterns shape your emotions and decisions, how they become habits, and how to dismantle them with precision. From there we move into tools, mindfulness, reframing, intentional self-talk, daily thought exercises. You will learn how successful people do this, how they built their clarity not through luck, but through discipline. This journey is not about becoming someone else, it is about returning to the strongest, clearest version of yourself. The version that has been buried under years of mental clutter and unexamined patterns. And make no mistake, it will be work. But it will be the most important work you ever do. Because once you change your thinking, everything else begins to change. Your energy, your focus, your relationships, your decisions, your peace. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop doubting and start deciding. You stop surviving and start leading. If you are ready to break free from the thoughts that have been breaking you down, then let us begin. This is not just information, it is transformation. This is not just thinking, it is mastery. Chapter 1. Understand your bra. Why negative thinking becomes a habit before you even notice. Buddha said, "The mind is everything. What you think you become," and Norman Vincent Peale said, "Change your thoughts and you change your world." There is a reason it feels so hard to stop thinking negatively, even when you know it is hurting you. Even when you tell yourself, "I should not think this way." Even when people around you say, "Just be positive." The reason is not weakness, it is wiring. Your brain is not broken, it is efficient. It is built to survive, not to make you happy. It scans for danger, it looks for what could go wrong. It memorizes pain faster than peace. This is not your fault. It is evolution. But understanding that truth is the first step toward freedom. In the past, your brain needed to remember threats to keep you alive. The person who ignored the rustle in the bushes got eaten. The one who anticipated danger, who worried, overanalyzed, doubted survived, and so those brain patterns got passed on. Today the bushes are gone, but the fear remains. It just changes shape. Now it whispers, "What if I fail, or they probably do not like me?" And because these thoughts feel urgent, your brain repeats them. Not because they are true, but because they are familiar. That is how thought patterns become habits. Every time you think a thought, it wires a neural path in your brain. Think it again and the path gets stronger. Eventually it becomes automatic. You do not even choose the thought, it chooses you. This is why negative thinking feels so powerful. It has been rehearsed. It has weight, and unless you interrupt it, it will run your life on autopilot. Let us look at how this shows up. You make a mistake. Your brain does not say, "That was a learning moment." It says, "You are such a failure, you get rejected." It does not say, "That was their choice." It says, "You are not good enough. You try something new." It does not say, "You are brave." It says, "You are probably going to embarrass yourself." These are not facts. They are habits. And like any habit, they can be broken, but only through awareness and new repetition. This is why affirmations alone do not work for most people. Saying, "I am confident," while your brain is firing off fear circuits, will not create change. The brain needs evidence. It needs new experiences. It needs to be challenged. You cannot simply layer positivity on top of negativity. You must understand the mechanics, disrupt the loop, and choose again over and over until clarity becomes your new default. The good news is that your brain is plastic, not physically but neurologically. It can change. It can rewire. This is called neuroplasticity, and it means that with focused thought, new habits, emotional consistency, you can build new mental pathways that serve you instead of sabotage you. But you must start by identifying the current ones. Where do your negative thoughts show up the most? Morning social situations after a failure. Who do they sound like? A parent, a critic, your own voice. Write this down. Awareness is everything. You cannot change what you will not name. Let me show you how this worked in one real story. A woman in her late 30s had lived her entire adult life with the thought, "I am not disciplined enough to succeed." It shaped her career, her relationships, her confidence. It was not true, but it felt true because she had repeated it for years. When she began journaling her daily thoughts, she saw how often it showed up. Every time she tried to change something in her life, it whispered that sentence. Once she saw it clearly, she could challenge it. She began writing a new sentence. "Every morning, every day I take action. I prove I am disciplined." She put that sentence with one small habit, like a walk, a task, a moment of silence. Within 3 months, she no longer felt like a fraud. She felt focused. Not because her life changed, but because her mind did. This is what you must do. Trace your thought loops. See the moments when negativity takes over. Identify the core belief beneath it. Then start to interrupt it, not with empty positivity, but with clarity. Ask yourself, where did I learn this thought? Is it true or just familiar? What belief would serve me better here? These questions are not soft, they are sharp, and when used consistently, they cut through years of self-sabotage. Build this awareness into your day. Set 3 alarms on your phone, labeled, "What am I thinking right now?" Stop, breathe, observe. Notice if the thought is negative, name it. Then ask, do I want to keep this thought or choose another? Over time, this practice gives you back the keys to your mind. If this chapter helped you see how your brain builds negative habits, share it. Someone you know may be stuck in their thinking and not even realize it. And if you are ready to break down the specific traps that keep you looping in pain, the next chapter will open that door. Chapter 2, Expose the Trap. How thought patterns become prisons and how to break out. Some thoughts feel like truth, but they are not truth. They are traps. Invisible, repetitive, convincing. You walk into them without noticing. You live inside them without questioning. And one day you realize you are not free. Not because someone locked you in, but because your thoughts did. And the first step to freedom is this name, the trap. Once you see it, it starts to lose power. One of the most common thought traps is overthinking. It wears the mask of intelligence. It tells you that if you think longer, you will find the perfect answer. But perfection never comes. So you spin. You replay conversations, rewrite emails in your head, rehearse failure before anything even happens. Overthinking is not preparation, it is paralysis. And the more you do it, the more your brain believes that action is dangerous and thinking is safer. But you cannot think your way into confidence. You must act your way into it. Ask yourself, how many times has overthinking actually solved the problem? How often has it brought peace instead of pressure? What if the real strength is not in having every answer, but in making one clear decision and learning from the result? Critical thinking is not overthinking, it is questioning with purpose. Overthink loops. Critical thinking moves. Another trap is self-doubt. It often sounds quiet, logical even. Maybe I am not ready. What if I fail? Others are better at this. These thoughts feel protective, but they are not. They are prison bars painted gold. Self-doubt keeps you small under the illusion of safety. But the only thing it protects you from is your potential. The longer you wait to feel ready, the more life passes you by. Here is the truth. Confidence is not a feeling, it is a result. You build it by showing up, by doing the thing while doubting yourself, by failing and realizing it did not destroy you. The strongest people are not those without doubt. They are those who learn to move anyway. And then there is the victim mindset, the belief that life happens to you, not through you. That your circumstances decide your future. That you are powerless. This mindset is seductive. It gives you someone to blame. It gives you reasons to wait. But it also robs you of every opportunity to grow. You cannot lead your life, blame your life at the same time. Look closely. Are there areas where you feel stuck because you are still waiting for someone or something to change? A boss to notice you, a partner to validate you, a break to find you. What if you stopped waiting? What if you asked, instead, what can I do with what I have from where I am right now? That one question could crack the door to your freedom. Thought traps are not just mental, they are emotional. They change your energy. Overthinking leads to anxiety. Self-doubt leads to hesitation. Victimhood leads to resentment. And those emotions shape your behavior. You withdraw. You avoid, you procrastinate, you sabotage, not because you are lazy or broken, but because your thoughts led you there. So, how do you break out? First, you recognize the pattern. Write down your most frequent negative thoughts. Look for repetition, then give the pattern a name. This is my overthinking loop. This is the self-doubt voice. Naming gives you distance. It turns the thought from an identity into an object, something you can study, interrupt, and rewire. Second, you ask better questions. Every time a trap thought appears, challenge it. Is this fact or fear? Where is the evidence? What would I say to someone I love if they had this thought? Do not let the thought roam freely. Put it on trial. Third, take small physical action. Action is the enemy of thought traps. Not massive change, just something. Send the message. Make the call. Go for the walk. Write the plan. Every small act tells your brain, I am not stuck. I am choosing. That rewires the trap into a bridge. Real freedom is not just the absence of pain, it is the presence of clarity, and clarity comes when you stop treating every thought like truth and start treating it like data. Some of it is useful, most of it is noise. Learn the difference, and you will learn to move forward even while your thoughts try to hold you back. Here is your challenge for today. Every time you catch yourself looping in one of these traps, speak this sentence out loud. This thought is a trap, not truth. Then write down the decision or action you will take anyway. This is how you start training your mind to serve you, not control you. If this chapter helped you name one of your own traps, share it. Someone else is living inside a prison of thought and they do not know the door is already open. The next chapter will show you how your emotions and behavior are being shaped by the thinking you have just learned to interrupt. Chapter 3. Thought creates feeling. How your mental patterns shape your emotion and behavior. There is a moment that happens before every emotion you feel. A moment so fast, so automatic, that you often do not even notice it. A thought, one sentence, one interpretation, one quick judgment your brain makes about what is happening around you. And in that instant, your body reacts. Your heart rate changes, your breath shortens, your stomach tightens. You feel angry, sad, afraid, ashamed. But the emotion did not appear from nowhere. It was born from thought. Your mind spoke, and your body listened. This is one of the most overlooked truths about human experience. Emotions are not just reactions, they are creations. They are shaped by what you believe, what you assume, what you expect. The story you tell yourself about what is happening becomes the lens through which your entire nervous system responds. And if your thinking patterns are negative, distorted, or outdated, your emotions will echo that distortion even when reality does not. Take a simple example. Someone you care about does not text you back. Your first thought, they are ignoring me. What follows? Frustration, insecurity, maybe even resentment. But pause. Was that the only possible thought? Could it have been they are probably busy, or they may be struggling, or even this has nothing to do with me? Each of those thoughts creates a different emotion. Each of those interpretations tells your nervous system how to feel, and it goes deeper. Your emotions fuel your behavior, so that one thought can lead you to withdraw, to lash out, to apologize for something you did not even do. Now your thought has become a feeling, and your feeling has become an action. This is the cycle that shapes your entire life. Thought, emotion, behavior, outcome, reinforcement. If you do not break the chain at the level of thought, it repeats again and again until it becomes who you think you are. Over time, these patterns create your emotional default. Some people live in anxiety, not because life is dangerous, but because their thoughts are always scanning for what could go wrong. Some live in sadness, not because they are broken, but because their thoughts replay every failure. Some live in anger, not because they are mean, but because their thoughts are filled with unfair comparisons and unsaid expectations. And here is the hard truth. You cannot change your feelings without changing your thinking. You can distract yourself, numb yourself, pretend. But if your thoughts stay the same, your emotions will return louder and heavier each time. So how do you shift? First, build awareness through the day. When you feel a strong emotion, stop and ask, what thought created this? Do not judge it. Just name it. Write it down. Over time, you will begin to see patterns. Maybe the thought is I am not doing enough. Maybe it is they do not really care. Maybe it is this will never work. These are not just words. They are triggers. They set off alarms in your body. Second, test the thought. Ask, is this 100% true? Have I felt this before and been wrong? What other explanation could exist? The goal is not to eliminate emotion. The goal is to align it with reality, not just reaction. Third, replace the thought, not with fake positivity, but with a constructive alternative. Instead of I will fail, try I might struggle, but I can learn. Instead of they are judging me, try they might not even be thinking about me. These shifts are small but powerful because they change the entire chain. Different thought, calmer emotion, wiser behavior. Let us look at a real-life example. A man constantly felt disrespected at work. Every meeting, he assumed others were dismissing his ideas. That thought, they do not value me, triggered irritation. He started withdrawing. Then he became passive-aggressive. Soon his team really did start distancing from him. But when he learned to catch the thought, he realized it was based on an old story, rejection from his past. He began testing it, looking for evidence, reframing. He shifted from they do not respect me to maybe I need to communicate more clearly. His emotions softened. His actions changed. And so did his relationships. This is the power of thought. Not to control your life, but to influence it, and influence it consistently. When you take ownership of your thoughts, you take ownership of your emotional experience. You begin to trust yourself. You stop being afraid of your own mind, and you become someone who responds instead of reacts. Here is your daily practice for the next 7 days. Keep a thought tracker. Anytime you feel anxious, angry, discouraged, write the emotion down. Then ask, what thought came right before this? Do not filter. Be honest. Then ask, is that thought helpful? Is it accurate? What could I think instead? This is not journaling. This is rewiring. If this chapter helped you see the link between your thinking and your emotions, share it. Someone you love may be overwhelmed by feelings they do not understand because they have not traced the thoughts beneath. And if you are ready to go even deeper into how to change those patterns, not just notice them, the next chapter will teach you how. Chapter 4. Ask better questions. How to break negative thoughts with critical thinking. Most people try to escape negative thinking by forcing themselves to be positive. They repeat affirmations, they avoid the subject, they distract themselves with noise. But the thought always returns, because the issue is not the thought, it is the way they respond to it. The true antidote to negative thinking is not escape, it is inquiry, not denial, but depth. You do not fight a negative thought with positivity, you break it with a better question. Every negative thought is a story often unchallenged, and your brain believes whatever it repeats. So when your mind says I am a failure, or this always happens to me, or nothing ever works out, it is not presenting a fact. It is offering a theory, and like any theory, it must be tested. Critical thinking means stepping back from your thoughts and asking, is this true? But go further. Ask, according to what evidence have I felt this way before and still found a solution? What would a neutral observer say if they looked at this situation? These are not soft questions. They are precise. They are the scalpel that separates emotion from reality. Let us break down how this works. Imagine you make a mistake. Your thought is, I always mess things up. Instead of spiraling, pause. Ask always, what is the evidence for and against that? What did I learn from the last mistake I made? What small win did I overlook today? These questions reframe your focus. They do not erase the mistake, but they shift your relationship to it. Another example, someone ignores your message. You think they are mad at me. That thought becomes anxiety. But instead of accepting it, challenge it. Is that the only explanation? Could they be busy? Has this happened before, and what turned out to be true? These questions slow the emotional storm. They give you space to think clearly. And that space is freedom. The most powerful question of all might be this: what would I say to someone I love if they were thinking this thought? That question cuts through the noise, because we are often cruel to ourselves in ways we would never be to others. And when you apply compassion, logic, and perspective to your own thoughts, you begin to see how distorted they have become. Here is where critical thinking becomes a daily tool. Do not let any negative thought go unquestioned. Treat it like a stranger knocking at your door. Do not let it walk in without asking, who are you? Where did you come from? What do you want from me? Some thoughts are messengers. Others are thieves. You need to know the difference. Start keeping a thinking log. Every time you catch a negative thought, write it down. Then write at least 3 critical questions underneath. What does this thought assume? What facts challenge it? What belief is it protecting? This habit turns your brain into an ally instead of an enemy. Over time, you will stop believing every dark story your mind tells you, and do not worry if you do not have perfect answers. The goal is not to eliminate doubt. The goal is to interrupt the autopilot to create a moment of consciousness. Because in that moment, you have a choice. And every time you choose to question the thought, instead of obey it, you weaken its power. Real thinkers are not people who never have negative thoughts. They are people who refuse to accept them without examination. They are people who ask hard questions, who seek deeper clarity, who stand guard at the gates of their mind, not with aggression, but with awareness. Let me leave you with this. Your mind is brilliant, but it is also biased. It remembers pain more than peace. It notices what went wrong more than what went right. It tells stories to protect you, even if those stories are no longer true. That is why critical thinking is not optional. It is survival. It is the skill that transforms suffering into strength. If this chapter gave you a question that opened your thinking, share it. Someone you love might be drowning in unchallenged thoughts, and your voice could be the one that reminds them can choose again. And if you are ready to shift not just your questions but your entire perception of the world around you, the next chapter will teach you how to reframe it all. Chapter 5. Shift the lens. How cognitive reframing changes everything you see. You do not see the world as it is. You see the world as you are, through the lens of your thoughts, through the filter of your past, your fears, your assumptions. And that lens shapes everything. How you interpret failure, how you define success, how you view people, and most of all, how you see yourself. The problem is not always the situation. The problem is often your frame. And the power of critical thinking is this: you can change the frame. Cognitive reframing is not about lying to yourself. It is not about pretending things are good when they are not. It is about choosing to look at the truth through a different angle, one that gives you power instead of taking it away. Reframing says this is happening. But what else might be true? It does not erase reality. It expands it. Let us start with something simple. You get rejected from a job. The default frame says, I failed. I was not good enough. But pause. What other frame could exist? This was not the right fit. Something better is being prepared. I just learned something valuable about how to show up next time. Same event, different emotion. Not because the event changed, but because the lens did. Or imagine a friend pulls away. Your first thought might be, they are abandoning me. But what if you reframed it? Maybe they are going through something I cannot see. Maybe this space is showing me how much I rely on others for my self-worth. Again, the facts stay the same, but the story changes, and with it, your response changes. The ability to reframe is not a trick. It is maturity. It is the wisdom to say this moment does not define me. It reveals me, and I get to choose what it reveals. Most people live inside a single frame their entire life. I am not enough. Life is unfair. People always leave. Success is for others. But once you realize you are holding the camera, not the scene, everything shifts. Here is how to build the skill. Start with any stressful situation. Write it down. Then write the first thought that comes to mind. Now ask, what other ways could I see this list? At least 3 alternative frames. Then ask, which frame leads me to peace, growth, or clarity? Choose that one, sit with it, repeat it, make it your new lens. Another tool. Zoom out. Imagine you are 5 years in the future, looking back at this moment. Would you say to yourself, what would you want yourself to notice, learn, or release? Often the frame changes when the timeline expands. What feels like the end today is just a doorway in disguise. You can also use the other chair method. Picture someone you deeply respect, sitting across from you. Tell them the story as you see it. Then ask, how would they respond? This gives your brain a new perspective instantly. You borrow their clarity until yours returns. Reframing is especially powerful with identity. If you grew up thinking I am the quiet one, you may interpret every missed opportunity as confirmation. But what if that was just a role you played, not who you are? What if you reframed it to I am someone learning to speak with intention? Suddenly your quiet becomes presence. Your hesitation becomes wisdom. The frame lifts the weight off your story. Let us be clear, reframing is not spiritual bypass. It is not ignoring pain. It is owning your power within it. You can say this hurts, and I am still learning. This feels like loss, and it is also an opening. This is hard, but I have done hard things before. These are not fantasy frames, they are flexible ones, and flexibility is strength. Here is a practice. At the end of each day, write down one moment that frustrated or discouraged you. Then ask, what frame did I use in that moment, and what other frame could I choose now? Over time, your mind learns that perception is a choice, not a sentence, and when you begin to live this way, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You stop needing everything to go right to feel okay, because your peace no longer comes from control. It comes from perspective, and no one can take that from you. If this chapter shifted how you see even one thing in your life, share it. Someone out there is drowning in a single frame, and your voice might help them see something they could not before. And if you are ready to learn how to become the observer of your thoughts, not just their prisoner, next chapter will teach you how through mindfulness. Chapter 6, Become the Observer. Use mindfulness to separate yourself from your thoughts. Most people live inside their thoughts as if those thoughts are who they are. I feel anxious, so I must be anxious. I think I will fail, so it must be true. I keep remembering that mistake, so it must still matter. But your thoughts are not facts. They are not your identity. They are experiences, mental events, and you are not the thought. You are the one who notices thought. This is the shift mindfulness gives you. It does not silence your mind. It gives you distance. It lets you step back from the storm and say, there is the storm again. You stop being the emotion and start being the observer. And when you observe, you gain the one thing negative thoughts cannot survive: awareness. Think of your mind like a sky and your thoughts like clouds. Some are light, some are dark. Some stay for seconds, others for days, but none of them are the sky. They just pass through it. And when you become mindful, you stop trying to control the weather. You just let it move while you stay grounded. This is not passive, it is powerful, because when you are not fused with your thoughts, you do not react blindly, you do not spiral, you do not collapse into every mental story. You begin to notice patterns. You say, there is my anxiety loop. There is that old story of not being enough. You name it, you watch it. And in that space, you are free to choose differently. Mindfulness is not something you do only on a meditation cushion. It is a skill for real life. You use it in traffic, in conflict, in silence, in stress. Every moment your mind pulls you into judgment, fear, or shame, you have the chance to return, to breathe, to witness, to ask, is this helpful? Is this mine? Or is this just a thought passing through? Start small. 1 minute. Sit still. Breathe deep. Watch your mind like a curious observer. Do not fix anything. Do not chase anything. Just notice. A thought appears. You silently thinking. The thought fades. You come back to breath again and again. This is not escape, it is training. You are learning to stay present with your mind without being overwhelmed by it. In daily life, mindfulness looks like this. When you are washing dishes, you feel the water, not just rush to finish. When you are walking, you notice your steps, your breath, your surroundings. When you speak to someone, you listen fully without rehearsing your reply. When a thought shows up, you say, that is just a visitor. Over time, this practice rewires your brain. It weakens the grip of automatic patterns. It builds your emotional resilience. You stop reacting with the full weight of every thought. You start responding with clarity, intention, and grace. Here is a story. A woman I worked with had constant thoughts of failure. Every new task felt heavy. Every challenge triggered panic. She thought something was deeply wrong with her. But once she started mindfulness practice, everything changed. Not because the thoughts stopped, but because she learned to see them. Oh, she said one day, that is just my fear voice again. She started breathing through it, watching it, not believing it, and within weeks, her energy shifted. She was no longer battling herself, she was walking with herself. That is what mindfulness gives you. Not perfection, but peace. Not control, but choice. The ability to say, I see you, fear, but I do not need to obey you. That sentence can save relationships, decisions, and dreams. Here is your practice. Choose one daily routine. Brushing your teeth. Making coffee your morning walk. Do it fully present. No phone. No distractions. Just your breath. Your body, your awareness. Let this become a ritual. A place where your mind can come home. And when the next wave of negative thoughts crashes in, do not try to stop the wave. Just notice it. Breathe through it. Let it pass. You are not drowning. You are standing in the tide, and the tide always shifts. If this chapter gave you space from your thoughts, share it. Someone close to you might be lost inside their own mind, waiting for a way out. And if you are ready to go from awareness to active reprogramming, where you rewrite the thoughts that no longer serve you, then the next chapter will give you the tools. Chapter 7. Reprogram your mind: how to rewrite negative thoughts with intentional habits. You cannot delete a negative thought by hating it. You cannot erase years of mental programming with one moment of clarity, but you can rewrite. You can override. You can install a new pattern, and like any habit, the more you repeat it, the stronger it becomes. Until one day you realize your mind no longer defaults to self-doubt, fear, or shame. It pauses, it questions, it chooses. Reprogramming your thoughts is not about becoming someone you are not. It is about returning to who you were before the world told you what to believe, before life handed you the wrong script, before pain trained you to expect more of the same. It is about taking back authorship of your mental story and saying, "This is what I choose to believe from now on." Let us start here. Every time you repeat a thought, you reinforce a neural connection. That is the science. Your brain becomes what you rehearse. So if you have spent years thinking "I am not enough," that sentence has become a mental reflex. Not because it is true, but because it is familiar. The key to reprogramming is not to fight that thought. It is to replace it deliberately, repeatedly, until the new thought becomes the default. Begin by identifying your most common negative statements. Write them down. Be specific. Not just "I am negative," but "I always mess things up." "I am behind in life." "People do not care about me." These are the lines of your current mental script. Then one by one rewrite them. Ask yourself, what is a statement that is equally honest but more empowering? You are not trying to fake confidence. You are trying to create a bridge. For example, "I always mess things up" becomes "I make mistakes, but I always learn and grow." "I am behind in life" becomes "I am moving at the pace that is right for me." "People do not care about me" becomes "I am learning to build deeper connections with people who see me." Now the key: repetition with emotion. Do not just read these new thoughts. Say them, feel them, write them every morning. Whisper them when doubt arises. Anchor them to action. For example, if your new thought is "I am capable," pair it with a small win. Complete a task. Celebrate it. This tells your brain, "See, this new belief matches reality." Your old thoughts have proof because they have repetition. Give your new thoughts the same advantage. Consistency beats intensity. Do not wait for motivation. Make it a daily habit. 5 minutes of focused rewriting is worth more than an hour of wishing your mind would change. Another powerful tool: counter-evidence, journaling. Every time a negative thought appears, write it down. Then write 3 specific examples that contradict it. For instance, if you think "I am always overlooked," find 3 times when someone appreciated you, complimented you, or supported you. Your brain cannot hold 2 opposite truths without questioning one. Feed it new truth. You can also use visual cues. Write your new thoughts on sticky notes. Put them where you work, sleep, eat. Let your environment reflect your new beliefs. When the world around you mirrors the story you are building, your brain accepts it faster. And most importantly, watch your language. The words you speak become the thoughts you believe. Avoid extremes. Never, always, everyone. No one. Replace "I am terrible" at this with "I am learning this." Replace "I cannot handle this" with "This is hard, and I am still standing." Your vocabulary is your internal code. Rewrite it wisely. Let us look at how this works in practice. A man used to say to himself every morning, "I hate my life." It became automatic. He did not even notice. One day, after hearing about reprogramming, he replaced that phrase with "I am learning how to love my life one choice at a time." At first it felt fake, but he said it anyway, every day. And slowly, his brain started finding reasons to believe it. He started making different choices. Small joys became visible. Hope returned. Not because life changed, because his script did. This is your power. You do not have to believe everything you think. You can become the editor. You can stop reading the old story and start writing the new one line by line, habit by habit, truth by truth. Here is your assignment. Choose one negative thought that shows up often, write it, then rewrite it. Speak the new sentence aloud. Every time the old one appears, respond not with panic, but with your new phrase. Anchor it with one small action that aligns with it. Do this for 7 days. Watch what shifts. If this chapter gave you the tools to start rewriting the story in your mind, share it. Someone in your life might be living inside an old narrative, just waiting for a new sentence to begin. And if you are ready to learn how to change the voice you speak to yourself, with the one that shapes everything, the next chapter will open that door. Chapter 8. Master your self-talk. How the voice in your head becomes your life's direction. There is a voice inside your mind that never stops speaking. It narrates your choices. It comments on your appearance. It judges your failures. It whispers before you try. It echoes after you fall. And most people never question it. They believe it. They follow it. They let it write the rules. But what if that voice is not your truth? What if that voice is just a reflection of old fear, old wounds, old scripts you never chose? The way you talk to yourself becomes the way you live. That is why mastering your self-talk is not optional. It is urgent. Self-talk is the most intimate conversation you will ever have. It shapes your confidence, your identity, your relationships, your courage, and the tone matters more than the words. Some people say positive things in a voice of pressure. You can do this, they say, but their mind shouts it like a threat. Others whisper failure in gentle tones. Of course you failed, says their mind with false compassion. That sounds like truth. But make no mistake, the voice in your head is not neutral. It is either building you or breaking you. Most self-talk is not chosen. It is inherited from childhood, from culture, from moments of pain. A parent's criticism becomes your inner critic. A teacher's disapproval becomes your hesitation. A betrayal becomes your self-protection. And before long, your mind becomes a room full of echoes that do not belong to you. But here is the breakthrough. You can reclaim that voice. You can interrupt it. You can speak to yourself like someone you are responsible for. You can build an inner voice that reflects who you are becoming, not who you used to be. Start by listening, really listening. For one day, write down the voice inside. Not just the dramatic thoughts, but the quiet ones. When you try something new, what do you hear? When you make a mistake, what do you say to yourself? When someone compliments you, how do you respond internally? This audit reveals the script you are living by. Then ask, if I spoke to a child the way I speak to myself, would they grow or shrink? Most people realize they have been shrinking themselves for years, daily, silently, relentlessly, not with cruelty, but with low expectations. I am not good at this. I am always behind. This is just how I am. These are not facts. They are permissions to stay stuck. Now create a new voice. Not fake, not fluffy, clear, supportive, accountable, grounded. This voice does not lie to you. It does not coddle you. It leads you. It says things like, this is hard, but you are capable. You made a mistake, and you are still worthy. You are learning. You are adjusting. You are not broken. You do not need to know everything you need to begin. Seek these words out loud, especially when the old voice gets loud. Say them with your hand on your heart if needed. Feel them. Let your nervous system register the shift. Your brain rewires through repetition, but your soul heals through tone. Be gentle, firm, and clear. Also, make your self-talk active. Do not just wait for negative thoughts to show up. Start your day with intentional language. Before you open your phone, speak one clear message to yourself. Today I will speak to myself with respect. Today I will lead my thoughts with intention. Today I will not mistake discomfort for danger. This practice done daily builds a new internal home, a place where you are safe with yourself, where you are honest but not harsh, where you are bold without cruelty. And when your inner voice becomes your ally, the outside world loses its power to define you. You can even use a technique I call future self-coaching. When facing a tough decision, pause and ask, what would my strongest future self say to me right now? Then say it out loud. Let that voice guide you. Let it become louder than fear, louder than history, louder than doubt. Because in the end, you are with yourself every moment of your life. Every room you walk into, every challenge you face, every joy you receive, you are the one voice that will never leave, and that voice will either hold you down or lift you forward. Here is your challenge for the next 24 hours. Treat your inner voice like your best friend. No insults, no silence during struggle, no rehearsing failure, only clarity, compassion, and leadership. Notice what changes your energy, your confidence, your posture, your decisions. Everything follows your voice. If this chapter helped you take back control of the way you speak to yourself, share it. Someone in your life may be hurting, and it might not be life doing it. It might be their own thoughts. And if you are ready to learn how successful people rewrote their mental script and rebuilt their entire mindset, the next chapter will show you how they did it. Chapter 9. Study Success. How mentally strong people rewire their thinking for clarity, action, and peace. Success is not luck. It is not charm. It is not having the perfect plan or the perfect timing. Success, real sustainable inner and outer success, is a product of mental clarity. The most powerful people you know are not always the most talented. They are the ones who learned how to lead their own minds. They made their thinking serve them, not sabotage them. And the good news, that kind of mindset is not a gift. It is a decision. It is a system, and it is available to you if you choose to study it, build it, and live it. The first thing successful thinkers do is take responsibility for their patterns. They do not blame the world for their mindset. They do not say that is how I am. They ask, how did I build this pattern, and how do I unbuild it? They see every negative thought as a program that can be rewritten. They do not wait for motivation. They install discipline. They do not wait for peace. They build clarity through self-reflection, repetition, and aligned action. Let me tell you about one, a CEO who once lived in constant fear of judgment. Every meeting drained him. Every decision felt like a risk. He told himself, I am not a natural leader. But one day, after hitting burnout, he wrote down every recurring negative thought. Then he asked, whose voice is this really? He traced it back to a childhood teacher who constantly criticized him. That realization broke the illusion. He started rewiring using affirmations backed by evidence-building confidence through daily wins, replacing fear-based questions with strategic ones. Within a year, his leadership presence shifted. His decisions became sharper. His team respected not just his title, but clarity. Successful thinkers recognize emotional triggers early. They do not wait until they explode. They study themselves. They know what conversations stir self-doubt, what time of day fuels overthinking, what situations reawaken old stories. And because they know, they prepare, they pause, they write, they breathe. They do not deny the emotion, they just do not obey it. They also run their mind like a system, not a storm. They use morning routines not as a productivity hack, but as a mental reset. 10 minutes of silence, journaling, intentional breathing, strategic review of goals. These are not trends, they are tools. They are how high-level thinkers return to their core in a world designed to pull them away. Another thing they do, pattern interruption. When a negative spiral begins, they move physically, mentally. They speak aloud. That thought is not helpful. They stand up, take a walk, switch tasks. They know momentum matters, and waiting for the thought to pass is not a strategy. Action is. Interrupting the spiral gives them room to choose again. They also simplify. In a world that overwhelms successful thinkers, zoom in. What is the real problem? What is the one thing that would move this forward? What is the cost of staying stuck here another day? These questions cut through fog. They protect energy. They eliminate noise. And they lead to faster, better outcomes, not by doing more, but by thinking better. And perhaps most importantly, they refuse to let shame stay unexamined. They know that shame creates silence, and silence creates repetition. So they speak, they write, they ask for help. They process not to dwell, but to dissolve, to remove the emotional anchors tied to old beliefs. One entrepreneur I know writes a thought audit every Sunday night. She reviews the week. What thought helped me most? What thought hurt me most? What pattern do I want to repeat or replace? This one habit, done consistently, has made her unstoppable, not because she never struggles, but because she never stays stuck for long. The success you see in others, the clarity, the confidence, the ability to lead and love and grow. It was built, it was earned through hours of mental reps, through small shifts done daily, even when no one else was watching. And if you want that kind of life, you must build that kind of mind. Here is your practice. Choose one successful person you admire, not for their money or status, but for their presence. Study how they think. What do they say when things go wrong? How do they process challenges? What mental habits do they live by? Write it down. Then ask, how can I train myself to do the same? Success is not a secret, it is a structure. Build the structure, and the success will follow. If this chapter gave you a glimpse into what real mental strength looks like, share it. Someone in your life may be looking at others and wondering why they are not there yet, and the truth is they can be. If they start mastering the small mental shifts, and if you are ready to learn how to interrupt negative thinking in real time with powerful action, the next chapter will guide you there. Chapter 10. Interrupt the spiral. How to stop negative thoughts in real time with action. You can learn the patterns. You can write the scripts. You can even rewire your beliefs. But at some point, theory must meet the moment. Because the real test of your mindset is not how you think when things are calm. It is how you respond when the storm hits, when the old thoughts rise again, fast, loud, convincing. In those moments, what you do matters more than what you know. And that is why you need this skill: pattern interruption. Pattern interruption is exactly what it sounds like. It is the act of catching a thought in motion and stopping it before it becomes emotion, behavior, and consequence. It is your way of saying not this time. It is the mental pivot that saves you hours of spiraling by taking 5 seconds of action. And anyone can do it if they train for it. Imagine this. You feel anxiety rising. Your chest tightens. Your mind starts racing with what-ifs. The old pattern says, "Here we go again." This time you notice it. You say out loud if needed. Pause. Then you move physically. Stand up. Clap your hands. Change rooms. Drink cold water. Breathe deep. You do not wait to feel better. You interrupt the signal, because negative thoughts are not just mental, they are physical, they live in your body. And if you stay still, they gain power. But when you act, any act, you break the loop. You remind your nervous system, we are not stuck. We are choosing. Start building a toolkit. Write down 5 actions that shift your state quickly, and go for a short walk. Do 10 push-ups. Splash cold water on your face. Play one song that lifts your energy. Speak a truth aloud. I am not this thought. I am the one who chooses. The goal is not to fix everything. The goal is to break the momentum of the spiral, to create just enough space for a better thought to enter. Let me give you a story. A woman I worked with used to spiral into shame every time she made a mistake. One sentence, "You are such a failure," would lead to hours of self-blame. Then she learned this technique. The next time the thought hit, she clapped once loud. It startled her just enough to wake up. Then she walked to the window, took 3 deep breaths, and spoke one sentence, "I am still growing." That was it. The spiral ended. The thought still appeared, but it did not win. That is the power of pattern interruption. It does not erase the thought. It ends its control. You can make this fun. Set a challenge for yourself every time a negative thought arises. Do something unexpected. Snap a rubber band on your wrist, shout a positive phrase, dance for 30 seconds, smile at yourself in the mirror. These small disruptions train your brain to associate the spiral with interruption, not surrender. Over time, your mind learns we do not go there anymore. We choose differently. And here is the deeper layer. Once you interrupt, replace, fill the space with something powerful. Ask a better question. Repeat your chosen affirmation. Take one small action that aligns with the person you are becoming. The interruption opens the door. The replacement rewires the room. Practice this daily, not when the storm is overwhelming, but in small moments. When you start to complain silently, interrupt. When self-doubt whispers, interrupt. When fear tries to control your schedule, interrupt. These moments are your reps, and your life is shaped by your reps more than your resolutions. Here is your task. Create a rescue list. 5 pattern interrupting actions. Write them, post them somewhere visible. And the next time the spiral starts, do one. Then breathe. Then choose again. This is not a fight. It is a choice. Again and again until the spiral is no longer your home, but a place you pass through quickly on your way back to clarity. If this chapter gave you a tool to break free from even one heavy moment, share it. Someone you know might be trapped in a thought loop right now, and your voice could be the interruption they needed. And if you are ready to train yourself to think long-term, not just react short-term, the next chapter will show you how to stretch your mind beyond the immediate. Chapter 11. Think long-term. Train your mind to rise above the moment. Your mind wants relief now, not growth, not clarity, just relief. That is why when discomfort shows up, your first instinct is to escape, to scroll, to snack, to avoid. Your brain whispers, later tomorrow, or worse. This will never change. It seeks the easy path. But your future is not built on relief. It is built on vision. And long-term thinking is how you protect your vision from the chaos of the present. Most people live in reaction. They make decisions based on how they feel, not who they are becoming. They quit because they are tired. They lash out because they are hurt. They settle because they are afraid. But when you think long-term, you interrupt that cycle. You ask a better question. Will this move serve me tomorrow, or will it just soothe me today? That question changes everything. Long-term thinking is not about delaying joy. It is about choosing real joy over cheap dopamine. It is not self-denial. It is self-respect. It is the choice to live as if your future self is watching, because they are. Every moment you are either borrowing from them or building for them. Here is the truth. Discipline is a form of love, and long-term thinking is the highest form of discipline. It says, I could react now, but I will respond for later. It says this pain is temporary, but the result will last. And people who think this way do not live in fantasy. Live in power. Think of your goals, your health, your mindset, your relationships. Every choice you make today either strengthens or weakens the person you are becoming. And the more you practice long-term thinking, the easier it becomes to say no to things that once controlled you. Here is a practical method when facing a choice. Pause and ask, how will I feel about this? In 1 hour, in 1 week, in 1 year. That timeline will reveal the truth. What feels good now might feel empty later. What feels hard now might feel powerful later. This is how you train your mind to choose alignment over impulse. Another tool: write a letter from your future self. Imagine it is 5 years from now. You are clear, focused, peaceful. What would that version of you thank you for doing today? What decisions would they be proud you made? Read that letter often. Let it speak louder than fear. This mindset also applies to how you handle struggle. When life is hard, most people ask, how do I get through this? But long-term thinkers ask, who do I want to become through this? That shift moves you from victim to student, from passivity to purpose. Your pain stops being punishment and becomes preparation. Let me share a real story. A man recovering from addiction told me this: every time I wanted to use, I would pause and say out loud, what does my future self need from me right now? That one sentence saved me over and over, because it reminded me I am not just living this day for me. I am living it for the me I have not met yet. That is long-term thinking, and it builds a legacy. You can use visual cues, a photo of someone you love, a quote from your future, a number representing your goal. These reminders pull your brain out of the moment and anchor it in your mission. When you can see beyond the now, you act beyond emotion. Here is your practice. Create a future focus list. Write 3 habits you will do today that your future self will thank you for. Small things: drink water, speak kindly, finish the task you keep delaying. Then do them every day. Let your daily actions become deposits in your future bank, because here is what no one tells you. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not motivation. It is perspective. Most people are not lazy. They are just short-sighted. But if you can lift your eyes even in your hardest moments and say, this too is shaping me, you become unstoppable. If this chapter expanded your time horizon even a little, share it. Someone in your life might be drowning in today, forgetting there is tomorrow worth living for. And if you are ready to bring this level of thinking into your work, your relationships and your leadership, the next chapter will take you there. Chapter 12. Think critically in relationships. Who you trust shapes your future. Your thoughts are not the only ones that shape your life. The voices you let in matter just as much. The people you surround yourself with, whose opinions you believe, whose behavior you tolerate, whose energy you absorb, are powerful forces in the architecture of your mindset. And one of the most overlooked areas of critical thinking is this: who do you give access to your inner world? Most people choose relationships by comfort or history, not by alignment. They keep people close because they have been around for years, even if those people reinforce small thinking, self-doubt, or chaos. But just because someone has known you longest does not mean they know you best. And just because someone loves you does not mean they are healthy for you. So critical thinking in relationships means asking hard questions. Does this person speak life or fear into me? Do I feel drained or focused after I am with them? Do they reflect the future I want or the past I am trying to outgrow? These questions are not cruel. They are clarifying. They are how you protect the mental world you are building. It does not mean you must cut everyone off, but it does mean you choose intentionally. Who gets your vulnerability? Who gets your vision? Who gets your silence? The answers to those questions shape your peace, your decisions, and your capacity to grow. Let us talk about trust. Most people trust based on chemistry, on how someone makes them feel in the moment. But critical thinkers trust based on consistency. They look at patterns, not promises, actions, not intentions. They ask, does this person do what they say? Do they take responsibility or shift blame? Do they speak with respect when they are angry? These are the real indicators of character. There is a myth that thinking critically about relationships is cold or cynical. It is not. It is self-respect. You cannot build a healthy mind in a toxic environment. You cannot rise while staying anchored to people who do not want to grow, and love without clarity becomes a trap. You begin to confuse loyalty with silence, kindness with avoidance, and connection with control. Let me tell you about someone who learned this the hard way. A woman was constantly second-guessing herself. She thought she had a confidence issue. But after working through her thought pattern, She realized every time she made a strong decision, her partner would subtly mock it, question it, or ignore it. Over time, her critical mind had been trained not to trust itself. Once she saw the pattern, she had a choice. Keep explaining her worth to someone unwilling to see it, or rebuild her mind in a space where it was safe to think clearly. She chose the second, and everything changed. Your relationships either reinforce your highest self, or they pull you back into roles you have outgrown. Some people love the unhealed version of you because it makes them feel needed or superior. When you grow, you challenge that dynamic, and not everyone will celebrate your clarity, but that is okay. Your job is not to be accepted by everyone. It is to stay aligned with the person you are becoming. Here is a mindset shift. Not everyone deserves full access to you. Not your energy, not your plans, not your struggles. You can be kind without being available. You can care without being entangled. You can forgive without reconnecting. Start practicing relational boundaries through critical thinking. When someone shares advice, pause and ask, do they live the life I want? When someone gives feedback, ask, are they speaking from wisdom or from their own unhealed story? When someone demands your energy, ask, is this love or obligation dressed up as loyalty? These are hard questions, but they are the ones that save years of confusion, self-betrayal, and emotional exhaustion. Your circle does not need to be big. It needs to be aligned. One honest, growth-oriented voice is worth more than 10 familiar ones that keep you looping in doubt. Choose people who challenge your thinking without attacking your identity, who hold you accountable without controlling your direction, who remind you of who you are, not who they want you to be. Here is your practice. Do a relational audit. Write down the 5 people you spend the most emotional time with. Then ask, what thoughts do I leave with after being with them? If those thoughts, mostly negative, anxious or self-doubting, it is time to rethink that access. And remember, protecting your peace is not rejection. It is responsibility. If this chapter gave you clarity about the role others play in your thinking, share it. Someone in your life might be doubting themselves because they are surrounded by noise, not truth. And if you are ready to apply critical thinking in high-pressure environments like your career or team dynamics, the next chapter will give you the mental tools. Chapter 30, Clearly Under Pressure. How to apply critical thinking in work conflict and decision-making. Pressure reveals the truth. Not just about the world, but about your mind. When deadlines tighten, when stakes rise, when conflict strikes, your thinking either becomes your anchor or your undoing. That is why critical thinking is not a luxury for leaders. It is a requirement. It is what separates reaction from response, collapse from composure, and noise from clarity. In work, most mistakes do not come from lack of intelligence. They come from emotional thinking disguised as urgency. Someone says, we have to fix this now, and fear takes over. The team rushes. Assumptions go unchecked. Decisions are made to avoid blame rather than create progress. And hours, days, even years are lost, cleaning up what could have been prevented by 5 minutes of clear thought. Critical thinkers pause. Not forever. Just long enough to ask the right questions. What is actually happening, not what we are afraid is happening? What outcome are we solving for? What are the options we have not considered yet? These are not philosophical questions. They are strategic tools. The pause does not delay the solution. It creates the space for a better one. One executive I coached ran a fast-growing company. The pressure was constant fires every day, but instead of rushing to solve every crisis, he taught his team one rule. Respond. Do not react. Before any action, they would write down the problem list, the facts, write the emotions attached, and name what success would look like. That one practice saved them from burnout and built trust in their decision-making process. Conflict is another test. In heated moments, most people defend themselves, not the truth. They listen to respond, not to understand. They turn disagreements into power struggles. But critical thinking turns conflict into clarity. It asks, what part of this is about me? What is the real need behind their words? What story am I telling myself about their intent? And is it accurate? You cannot solve conflict with the same mindset that created it. You must rise above the emotional noise. You must lead the conversation with curiosity, not control. That is not weakness, that is mastery. Let us talk about team decisions. The loudest voice is not always the wisest. Critical thinkers know this. They create space for dissent. They ask junior voices for input. They challenge assumptions, even their own. They do not confuse confidence with correctness. They know that true leadership is not about having all the answers, but about asking better questions. When you apply critical thinking at work, you make fewer emotional errors. You become known not for how fast you speak, but for how well you think. You are not just a doer, you are a thinker. And thinkers are the ones people trust in storms. Here is how to train this. Before every big decision, write down the pressure you feel. Name it. I feel rushed. I feel afraid of failing. I feel like I need to prove myself. Then breathe. Then write down the facts, not the feelings. Then ask, what would this look like if I were already successful and did not need to prove anything? That question alone can neutralize fear. Another method, pressure journaling. At the end of each workday, write one moment where you felt triggered or rushed. Then ask, what was the story behind that pressure? Was it true? How could I have responded differently? This practice rewires your brain to lead, not react. Even in personal life, the same rules apply. A partner says something hurtful. You want to defend. Instead, pause. What did I hear? What did they mean? What am I afraid of right now? That pause could save the relationship. This is not about perfection. You will still feel pressure. You will still react sometimes. But the more you practice, the shorter the gap becomes between trigger and clarity. And that gap is everything. Here is your practice the next time you feel urgency. Slow down. Write the facts. Ask 3 clarifying questions and then decide. Not from fear, from alignment. If this chat helped you bring structure to high-pressure moments, share it. Someone near you might be making life-altering decisions from a place of panic, and your words could remind them clarity is always an option. And if you are ready to challenge your entire belief system, reset your standards, and clarify the mind you want to live with, the next chapter will take you there. Chapter 14. Reset your mental standard. Challenge the beliefs that quietly control your life. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. There is a level of peace, strength, and clarity that becomes possible, not when you learn something new, but when you let go of something old, something hidden, something you once believed because it felt true in the moment, but it is no longer true for who you are becoming. This is the hardest part of transformation, not building the new, but challenging the familiar. And that is what this chapter invites you to do. Reset the mental standards you have never questioned. You do not rise above your life. You rise above your patterns, and every pattern is built on a belief. That belief becomes the lens through which you see yourself, others, and the world. But not all beliefs are conscious. Some sit quietly in the background, controlling your decisions, reactions, and identity without ever announcing themselves. That is why awareness is not a luxury. It is the starting point of freedom. Start here. What do you believe about yourself when no one is watching? That you are behind, that you are hard to love, that you must prove your worth through achievement. These are not surface thoughts, they are root systems, and they have been shaping your reality long before you ever wrote a goal or spoke an affirmation. Now ask, Where did that belief begin? Was it something someone said in anger, a moment when you failed and no one helped you understand it? A pattern you saw growing up and assumed was normal? When you trace the belief back to its source, you weaken its hold. Because most of your current struggle are not from new problems, they are from old beliefs you never challenged. It is time to challenge them now. Take one belief. I am always the one who gets left. Say it out loud, then ask, is that true? Or has it just become a story? I repeat, write down 3 times when someone stayed, when someone supported, when someone showed up. This is not about erasing pain, it is about refusing to let pain define your identity. Another belief. I must do everything alone. Ask, where did I learn that, and what has it cost me? Look at the exhaustion, the isolation, the decisions you made from pride instead of partnership. Then replace that belief with a new standard. I am worthy of support and I will learn to receive it. Speak it daily, act on it weekly. Let it become your new base code. Resetting your mental standard means refusing to accept thoughts that shrink you. It means noticing when you say that is just how I am, and interrupting it with no, that is who I had to be, but I choose differently now. One man I worked with carried the belief I must succeed or I am nothing. He was successful but hollow-driven, but never satisfied. When we unpacked it, he cried, not because it was wrong, but because it had run his life for 20 years. His new standard became, I create not to prove, but to express what is inside me, and that shift changed how he worked, how he loved, and how he rested. You can do the same. Write your old beliefs down like contracts, then one by one cross them out. Write a new contract, make it real, read it out loud every morning. Let your brain hear a new voice. Let your nervous system feel a new standard. Here is a powerful exercise. Write a list called standards. I now refuse to live below. Include statements like, I refuse to speak to myself with disrespect. I refuse to tolerate relationships that require self-abandonment. I refuse to mistake survival patterns for personality traits. I refuse to silence my voice to make others comfortable. Then next to each one, write the action that proves you mean it. This is how beliefs become embodied. This is how thought becomes transformation. Do not just reset your mindset, reset your life standards, because whatever you tolerate in thought, you repeat in action. And you are not here to live on autopilot, you are here to build with intention. If this chapter made you pause and realize how much of your life has been shaped by unspoken rules, share it. Someone near you may be aching to change, but they are still living by beliefs they never chose. And if you are ready for the final chapter, the one that brings every truth home and calls you to live it, then it is time. Chapter 15. This is your life now. Live what you know or lose it. You have come this far. Not by chance, not by scrolling, not by coincidence. You kept listening, kept turning the page, kept showing up for something deeper, and maybe for the first time in a long time, you realize it was never just about learning how to think clearly, it was about remembering who you are when you do. Because every insight you have heard, every shift in thinking, every call to pause, question, reframe, and choose again means nothing if you do not live it. This is not a book about knowing. This is a call to embodiment, to be someone who no longer thinks like a prisoner while holding the key. To become the one who walks different talks, different lives, different not because they are perfect, but because they finally chose to be awake. You now know how to spot the traps, overthinking, self-doubt, the victim script, the lure of immediate comfort. You know how to interrupt them. You know how to ask better questions. You know how to separate thought from truth, emotion from identity, urgency from wisdom. But here is the question that matters now. Will you live what you know? You do not need more time. You do not need a perfect plan. You need a decision right here, right now. A decision to lead your own mind with discipline. A decision to no longer wait for motivation to act. A decision to build the thought patterns that shape a peaceful, powerful life. One breath, one word, one action at a time. No one is coming to rescue you. That may sound harsh, but it is liberation, because it means you are not helpless. You never were. You have had the tools inside you from the start. They were just buried under noise. And now, piece by piece, you have cleared the path back to your center. You are not your past. You are not your old thoughts. You are not the version of you that lived by fear, survival, or silence. You are the architect of your future. And your blueprint is what you choose to think, say, and do today. Every time you choose a better thought, you build a strong brain. Every time you pause instead of react, you grow a more resilient spirit. Every time you speak to yourself with clarity and respect, you train the world how to treat you. Every time you write, reflect, and act, you are becoming. This life, your one and only life, does not need to be defined by perfection, but it must be defined by intention, by showing up for your mind like it matters, because it does. Everything begins there. Your love, your career, your energy, your impact, all of it flows from the thoughts you allow and the standards you set. So here in this final moment, I ask you to decide, will you continue to live beneath the old story, or will you rise into the truth that has always been waiting for you? Write your new script, speak your new language, lead your new life, and when it gets hard, and it will remember this, you do not need to control every thought. You just need to choose the next one wisely. That is critical thinking in action. That is what freedom feels like. That is your life can become from this moment forward. If you've made it to this point, you've probably realized what I have. You're not missing anything. You're not broken. You're not late. You already have enough to begin. The difference now is, will you honor what you carry? Will you stop waiting and start becoming? For me, the answer is yes. And I hope it is for you.